not just here in America, but also Mexico itself, because as you recall, on Tuesday, 2 of the 4 Americans who were victims of the kidnapping died in an incident. And if you recall, this comes from the 4 Americans who were crossing into the Mexican city on Friday of last week, and their vehicle began receiving gunfire shortly after entering Mexico. And we all saw the video that was released of the scene of armed men believed to be members of the Mexican drug cartel loading the victims into the back of a white truck, with 2 of the victims appearing to be injured or dead as the men dragged their bodies across the pavement. So there's an update on that story that went viral. 2 Americans who survived a violent kidnapping in Mexico have returned to the United States and have been taken to a hospital in Texas. Quote, the 2 survivors have since been brought back to the United States. This comes from a State Department spokesperson, Ned Price. That occurred with the assistance of our Mexican partners, with the assistance of our officials in Mexico. We are in the process of working to bring back the remains of the 2 Americans who were killed in this incident. Isn't that just lovely? Because Joe Biden can't figure his issue out. We can't figure out anything down the southern border. So Americans are dying in America, and they're also dying in Mexico. So no matter which one you look at, we're just getting screwed at the back end of everything here because we don't want to take things serious. You know, it's amazing to me because we've allowed literally terrorists to pour across our borders here. And when I say pour across, it's in the hundreds. Okay, this whole idea of like, oh, well, there's 1 or 2. No. It's in the hundreds of terrorists that are pouring across the border. We literally just apprehended a guy from Iran, as you just saw in the video. So it's thing after thing after thing. And the White House saying, well, everything's fine. Don't worry about it. It's just an issue. We'll get it resolved. It's been over 2 years now. They have no intention of figuring this out. They have no intention of actually figuring out anything, because if they can create a bleep storm, then people are more reliant on government. And we see that time and time again from the Democrat Party of having government be baby daddy. They're the ones that support us. And the more you need them, the more you're going to vote for the Democrats. Whereas Republicans say, hey, figure ish out yourself. We'll sit there and make sure we do our job. We'll secure the border because that's our main function of government, is to protect our citizens and make sure we uphold their rights and make sure that they get their rights. But yet the Democrat Party is doing the other end. We want to make sure that we don't do our job. We want to make sure that we don't uphold your rights. And while we say that we're going to uphold our rights, we're going to try to chisel away those rights each and every year. So that's why we see them going after the First Amendment. They've been going after the Second Amendment for decades. Now you have Joe Biden just open about it. Oh, we want to sit there and remove your assault weapons, whatever the hell that means. In actuality, he's been clear time and time again, every now and then, of, well, it's semi-automatic weapons. So let that sink in. You have drug cartel going after Americans on both sides of the border. You have massive amount of drugs coming across the border. You have massive amount of violent gang members coming across the border. All the while, you can't protect yourselves. A law-abiding citizen here in America can't protect themselves from the very people that are trying to harm them at times. Isn't that just lovely? But this is how it all works with the Democrat Party. Everything just goes to crap. So the 2 survivors have since been brought back again to the United States. And this was following, again, what happened last Friday, where there was a video that went viral of them being shot at and then basically thrown in the back of a van. Well, if matters couldn't get worse at the border, Biden is considering reviving border rules he campaigned on ending. Yes, you heard that correctly. So if you recall, there was Trump policies put in place when Joe Biden came into office. He removed these policies, a vast majority of Trump's policies, in the first week of him being in office. And one of them was basically, I don't want to use the word apprehending because that's not the right word, but basically keeping families together and holding them for immigration purposes and customs purposes and trying to figure out the paperwork of what the heck they're doing here. Are they trying to seek asylum? What in actuality is going on? And that was a big no-no. So the Biden administration is supposedly considering resurrecting stiffer regulations on family crossings illegally into the U.S. after President Joe Biden scrapped similar policies over a year ago. So Biden officials are debating whether or not to revive family detainment policies as the administration prepares to end Title 42, a Trump-era health order that has allowed U.S. Border Patrol agents to turn away migrants at the border. Now, we've broken that down here on the Bald Brad Show. There is a strong argument. Again, illegal immigration and our fiscal and our debt, all that stuff are my 2 major issues. But there is a conversation to be had about Title 42 actually expiring, because it was put under a pandemic-era policy, or as a pandemic-era policy. We're no longer in a pandemic. And we can't say that we are, because if we're going to say that we're in a pandemic and Joe Biden's trying to institute utilizing the HEROES Act, saying that we're under a national emergency to utilize that for his student loan debt forgiveness program, then our logic isn't linear. We can't have one here and go, well, it doesn't make sense to have student loan debt forgiveness, but it makes sense to continue Title 42. You can't have both. So if we're going to say Title 42 should end, then that allows us to open up the gateway to say, hey, you know what? The HEROES Act, the utilization of student loan debt, that shouldn't be allowed either. So there is a very strong case, by the way, that Title 42 should expire. But if we're going to allow it to expire, there needs to be something to basically replace it and something of equivalent value to replace it. But here's the problem. They're not willing to do that. And you had the messaging coming from the White House saying, we're just following the law. We're just following to make sure Title 42, if it stays, we'll make sure we follow it. But if it doesn't stay, gosh, shucks, we got to follow that too. And Jackie Heinrich of Fox News talked to Karine Jean-Pierre during the White House press briefing and said, well, you guys are the ones that were pushing to get Title 42 repealed. So why are you just kind of throwing your arms up like, I guess we got to follow it. It wasn't our decision, when you're the ones that have been pushing this whole thing to get repealed in the first place. So this is how the White House works, you guys. And I want to make sure I expose them because we got elections coming up, and I'm tired of Democrats trying to think that they're going to win this damn thing and Joe Biden running for a second term. So that's why we got to like and subscribe. That's why we got to send our videos out there. That's why we got to hit the join tab, and so that we can take whatever revenue we make here, push it out there to advertising and grow the channel so we can get conservative thought and ideas out there. Because I'll tell you, not everybody's doing and talking about this stuff. Well, it goes on here to say that Biden scrapped family detainment policies in 2021 as part of an effort to build an immigration system that is orderly, safe, and humane. Let that sink in, you guys. Let that sink in, please. Biden scrapped family detainment policies in 2021 as part of an effort to build an immigration system that is orderly, safe, and humane. He got the exact opposite. It's not orderly. It is a cluster bleep down there. You have anywhere from 6,000 to 12,000 border crossings a day in each state down there: California, Arizona, Texas. It isn't safe. There's literally trafficking going on. There's actual sex trafficking, minors. There is little girls being raped by these people, these smugglers. You literally just had 2 Americans die last week. You have freaking terrorist porn across the border. What do you mean safe? This is the least safe the border's ever been. And you gotta love the aspect of humane. No, yeah, it's humane letting kids just walk across the desert unaccompanied. All this is all this is so humane. It's all orderly, safe, and humane. What a lovely message coming from our administration. They're idiots. Well, since taking office, Biden has overseen an unprecedented immigration crisis. I love that they use the word crisis because it's so damn true. At the U.S. southern border, illegal immigration has surged to an all-time high. And the administration fears that numbers could worsen after Title 42 expires. By worsen, you guys, just to put in perspective, realistically, they're seeing anywhere from 6,000 to 9,000. If Title 42 expires on May 11th, they're expecting those numbers to either double or triple. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 15,000 to 18,000 illegal immigrants a day. So we haven't seen nothing yet if Title 42 is gone. Bringing back family detainment is one of the proposals officials have floated for tightening border security, despite the administration's previous position that the practice was inhumane and harmful illegal immigration to children. So it was harmful to immigrant children. It's so baffling. Officials have proposed limiting the time a family can be detained to 2 weeks, or setting no limits at all, according to the Times. No final decision has been made. And we're also just hearing that this is just, this is just a rumor, that the White House isn't actually saying that this is true or not. Since ending family detainment, the Biden administration has been releasing families into the interior of the United States. Yes, folks, you heard me correctly if you're listening to this. The Biden administration has been releasing families into the interior of the United States with scheduled court dates to hear their asylum claims. You came? Oh, perfect. Head on in, folks. The door is right over there. You'll be back. The government has kept track of these families through what they call trackers, and we've covered this, such as ankle bracelets or location data on cell phones, with which some of them are just throwing the cell phones in the garbage can or cutting their bracelets out and just being roaming free. So last year, you had the ICE officials admitted to losing track of hundreds of thousands of migrants. Yes, you heard me correctly. Again, it almost sounds so outlandish that I have to tell you that you're hearing this correctly, because I have a feeling some people are like, whoa, hold on. Did you just say that ICE lost track of hundreds of thousands of immigrants after we just used taxpayer dollars to give them ankle bracelets and cell phones? Yes, you did hear that correctly. So now we're going to spend not only tons of money on giving them cell phones, of which they're going to throw away. Not are we going to spend money on giving them ankle bracelets, of which they're just cutting off and throwing away, but we're also paying for food, health. Heck, at times we're paying for the education system for the kids. I mean, it's in the billions, you guys. Just for those 3 things, it's in the billions. So ICE's response that they could no longer find records of immigrants in alternatives to detention, ATD, that they had previously released came as a shock. particularly after they informed us recently that they had been misleading the public for several months by releasing extremely inaccurate data. Yeah, we covered that as well. It wasn't even close, the data. It was like 18,000% off or something like that, if you recall that number. It was crazy. Talk about misleading.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.